listing of things. Is this mic bad? Okay. Whoa. All right. Can we come down a little bit? That's a little loud. All right. So they feel like they're Evel Knievel jumping over a line of buses. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to get into the cloud. They don't know how much it costs. They don't know how to go from enterprise on-prem and colo facilities into workload-specific type of operations that you need to do when you're going into the cloud. It's how things change. But bigger than that, I think there's another thing that's a part of it. And this is a personal philosophy of mine. I think it's all about the data. If you think about the growth of data over the last 20 years, we've gone from gigabyte hard drives to terabyte hard drives. We've even evolved into solid state, and we've now got NVMe, and we've got all kinds of stuff going on. We have petabytes and petabytes and petabytes of data sitting around. It's hard to move. It's hard to manage. It's hard to back up. It's hard to protect. It's hard to archive because the mass. It is such a big anchor weighing down some of our largest customers to try and move that stuff around. So not only the size and scale of it all, but the performance, the reliability of it. We've spoiled them for 20 years at NetApp, giving them 6 nines of availability, multi-available, across site, all kinds of crazy configurations that they can use. When they jump into the cloud and an AZ goes down every other week, they don't know what to do. It's a different mindset that they have to shift to. So reliability is a conversation that you have to have because availability of data is a very big deal when it comes to applications. And I jokingly do air quotes and say real NFS and SMB services because a lot of the stuff that we've developed in the enterprise over the last couple of decades hasn't fully made it all the way into the cloud just yet, but we're getting there. And that's one of the things that we're really helping with. When we talk about workloads specifically, it really comes down to 3 key tenets to me. Cost, portability, moving data around, and the skills gap. We go through this cyclical thing about every 10 years. Y2K, it was Active Directory and Windows 2000 and learning that whole paradigm. 10 years ago, it was virtualization and what that did. That had some of the cost, moving the stuff around, and skills gaps that virtualization and VMware introduced. And now we're looking at kind of the same things going on with cloud. So we have to really think about what are we going to do to help address the skills gap? How are we going to help customers manage the costs and at least have a firm understanding of what the investment they're going to need, how their operating models are going to change from 3-year hardware refresh cycles into getting a monthly bill from AWS. It's a big sticker shock sometimes, and they don't really understand how it all operates. As I was talking about data a few minutes ago, moving those big data sets around, I mean, how do you move 10 petabytes a day if you need to? That's a lot of data. That's a lot of time. Man, would you really need to move that around? Would it be better to do something like Outposts and bring the compute? There's a lot to talk about. There's design, there's architecture, there's all kinds of things you have to consider. Moving the data is not always the right answer, and that's okay, right? But the beauty is that we have ways that we can do that very efficiently now. Addressing the skills gap is something that's very personal to me. It's something that I'm trying to work more with universities and start early so that we can begin changing the way that people are introduced to IT so that it's not just help desk work and fixing printers and doing servers and storage and networking, but doing more of a DevOps lifecycle, application lifecycle type of workflow. Those are the things I want to start helping people get into more, not just managing hardware anymore. So who is NetApp? Why am I standing up here at AWS reInvent talking to you? Some of you, everybody heard of NetApp? Everybody know what we do? Not everybody. Okay, good. We've been around for a while. We were founded in '92, and we've been working with AWS. I can remember deploying an instance of our operating system called ONTAP in AWS as an EC2 instance back in 2012, and it worked. Took some ninja sorcery to get it to work, but it worked. I was able to provision storage within that instance. So I've been working with that stuff for a long time. We've done a series of acquisitions. We do a lot of work around data management. And in 2016, we formed the Cloud Data Services business unit and began to do more and more integrations with cloud providers. We wanted to make it easy for customers to come in and be comfortable moving their data sets, using their existing hardware, using their existing applications and software to be able to move those workloads around to the clouds and back and forth as needed. So lots of stuff that you guys are seeing here on the screen. If you look at like 2017 and beyond, everything has been cloud. We have been turning this giant ship at NetApp to be a really a cloud-led company, built around data management, and making sure that everything that we do has some level of cloud focus to it, because that's where the industry's going. As if that wasn't bluntly apparent to everybody in the room here, that's where everything's going. So we have been on a journey for the last few years. Obviously, NetApp has led the industry for a long time in our hardware, but we've continued to do so in our innovations around cloud, working with the cloud providers, working with some of our biggest customers, mutual customers around the world, to make sure that we were doing the right things that they needed us to do in order to make them successful and get them to where they needed to be. We're very proud of ONTAP as an operating system. We've developed a sort of ONTAP everywhere mantra, so that the more places we have ONTAP, the more that it can live, whether that in a hybrid cloud world, whether it's in AWS, on-prem, in a colo facility, at the edge. ONTAP everywhere means that all of the fun features of ONTAP work. Makes data portability easy, makes costs a lot lower, and just makes your life generally much more easy to operate on a day-to-day basis. We have been doing this cloud stuff for about 5 years now. We've been turning this ship, and it's really turning hard now. I can remember a time when this slide was all zeros, about 4 or 5 years ago. So this is one of those that I'm personally really proud of. We've worked really hard to get to this point. So who's NetApp? You can trust us. We've been doing data and storage and application lifecycle management around data, backup and recovery, all of that stuff for a really long time. And now we're here to bring some of our solutions to the cloud, put an enterprise spin on it a little bit, and bring some of that reliability that we've been known for a long time. We cover solutions both in the cloud and on-prem across any vertical and workload. So just about anything you can imagine, we can help cover there. At the end of the day, one of the things that I've been working on myself the most are things around that help companies refactor their applications. Because I think when you move to the cloud, you can't think about servers and storage anymore. You have to think about workloads. You have to think about the multi-tier applications. You have to think about data pipelines. If you're doing anything around advanced AI or ML, data pipelines are your life. Data sources are your life. You need to be able to hook all of that together. So tools like SageMaker come into play. We need to be able to link all of those up, bring them together, right? It's not just about the virtualized or instanced infrastructure underneath the covers. It really comes down to the data. And I'm gonna keep saying that. Sorry if it's browbeating you, but it's something that I've just been on a mission to preach about for a long time now. Make sure that we understand that at the end of the day, whether it's EDA, whether it's HPC, whether it's Kubernetes, virtualization, whatever it might be, none of those work without the storage and the data underneath, right? I mean, lambdas, I guess. You can kind of do that, make that argument. Why is shared files so important in the cloud? We have a conversation all the time. We've been having an argument in enterprise storage tech for 30 years now. The good old block versus file debate. Block's faster, block's more reliable. I like my LUNs. No. File is easier. File is more efficient. It's more portable. It's easier to back up and use and maintain. Never could get along. How do you do LUNs and HBAs and things like that in the cloud? You kind of can't. It's kind of tricky. It's much more difficult to do it in the cloud than it is on-prem, right? What you're used to in the cloud is just you provision a volume. Under the covers, you're not really sure what it is, whether it would be block or file, unless you absolutely need to know that information. So we're seeing shared files absolutely explode, and a lot of this is coming from things like what I would refer to as unstructured data. User home drives, backups, departmental shares, accounting spreadsheets, and all that fun stuff, right? Worldwide, and this is from the IDC Data Management Solutions Review, 80% of worldwide data will be unstructured in the next 5 years. Wow. 74% of file-based enterprise applications are candidates to move to the cloud today. That's huge. We don't have to deal with HBA configs. We don't have to deal with LUN IDs and queuing and none of that stuff. It's a file. It needs a mount point. Your application can use it. It's universal. NFS or SMB, doesn't matter. 59% of organizations, this is going to blow your mind. And this one is from a cloud efficiency report that we did earlier this year, just a couple months ago actually. I'll say 60%. 60% of organizations expect to be mostly cloud-based within the next 18 months. What? Think about that. 60% of organizations, mostly cloud-based. So they're already moving, either they've already moved some of their workloads, they're adopting SaaS and managed offerings, PaaS offerings. They're moving their data sets to different places. They're offloading that responsibility. They're becoming accustomed to taking advantage of managed services. That's huge. That's huge for AWS. That's huge for NetApp. That's huge for the industry. That's huge for them, because think about what they're going to do with all that free time now. They're not busy turning knobs and dealing with backups and tape rotations and all of that fun stuff that we've done in IT for so long. They're innovating. They're developing. They're refactoring applications to be more efficient, right? Maybe they're taking some of those old multi-tier applications and refactoring them into containerizing them, running them with managed Kubernetes services, EKS. That's what's happening. The more of that they adopt, the more time they have. The interesting part about that is one begets the other. Everything has consequences. This is where the skills gap comes from, right? Because the minute you start phasing a way that you've done business out for a long time, you have to start thinking about, well, am I going to retrain my staff? Am I going to recertify everyone? Am I just going to hire new people? Do I still need the old ones if we've changed the way that we operate this way? These are the conversations that I constantly have with executives and customers all the time. They're struggling, CIOs are struggling to figure out what to do with their staffing. And a lot of it has to do with the massive rapid shift that's happening and the shift towards managed services. So AWS is in a great spot, NetApp's in a great spot, but the customers, we can't leave them behind. We can't forget about them because they're going to need help. Right? Performance, as I said before, performance, reliability, and enterprise data management. That's what those customers are going to need. They're going to need to know that their data is safe. They're going to need their auditors to be able to get proper test restores. They're going to need to satisfy all of those requirements to be able to do that, okay? There's a punchline to this, and I'm getting to it. So let's talk about one of the first ones that I brought up, which was moving data around, migrations. A lot of times, if you ask an application owner, they'll just build a new version of their application in EC2 or maybe EKS. The difference between talking to the application owner and talking to the IT department might be, hey, what are you going to do about your data? Hey, how are you going to plumb it all up, right? So it's easy for a developer to go up and create a new version of their application in the cloud. Maybe they can manage their source code, maybe they can link other stuff, but in a way it's a weird version of shadow IT where they're going rogue a little bit outside the confines of IT, creating their own set of data just to run their application up there, outside the visibility of their IT department. So we need to bring everybody back together again and be able to do all of these migrations in a ground up kind of data-led way. Let's get the data there first, Mr. Developer, and then you can use your existing data set that you're used to working with and just create applications all you want. We can create mirrors off of production if you just want to do some test dev work, and maybe you can QA the same way, but we can have mirrors off of production that'll just sync it up to the cloud for you. All of this is possible, but you have to lead with data, right? Disaster recovery is another great solution for this right here. With our SnapMirror technology that we have, we can move data between different ONTAP sources, whether it's on-prem, in the cloud, at the edge, whatever it might be. Simply set up a SnapMirror, and you can set up a schedule for every minute, every 5 minutes, every hour, whatever you want it to be, and you can cascade those, fan them out to different destinations. If you want to do it to 2 different regions worldwide, you absolutely can. So that's a big one. Lift and shift is another one that most people start with. It's kind of how they dip their toe in the water. They want to take their existing app and run it in the cloud. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I equate that to going back to virtualization and trying to do a P2V, a physical to virtual, for the first time. It also brings over all that terrible HP software, all that terrible Dell software that you don't really need in a virtual machine anymore. It was there to run the hardware. Well, in the same vein, you're not going to need all that stuff in an EC2 instance when you got a real thin version of the application. You don't need the OS most times. So there's different ways to think about lift and shift as well. When I was P2Ving a lot of workloads back 10, 15 years ago, the next thing I did was start building a brand new version of it without all of the bloat software and stuff like that on it. So lift and shift has its pros and cons. My personal favorite is just to refactor the application and go that way. And of course, launch modern applications. That's definitely the best ideal way to do it. If you're a brand new startup, if you're a brand new company, if you have a brand new application or line of business, start in the cloud. You can always bring it back home. It's much harder to build it at home and take it up to the cloud. Right? And I know it might feel like I'm beating this drum a little bit too much, but unstructured data. Quick show of hands. Application developer owners, you guys, anybody? Infrastructure people? You're all mostly infrastructure, okay. So you guys might pick up more what I'm putting down here. I think unstructured data has been left behind a little bit. And this is my own theory. I have debates about this with other colleagues inside the confines of NetApp. All we want to talk about is SAP HANA certification and FedRAMP, and we got all this stuff, right? But those are for specific applications, specific workloads. But what are we doing with the petabytes of data that are just sitting there on probably legacy storage arrays that are often overlooked, not refreshed as often as production, but they're just as important, especially if you're in a regulated industry like healthcare, financial services, automotive, any of that kind of stuff. You need to take care and protect that. I would posit that it's more important to move the unstructured data up and have universal access to it worldwide, and then focus on getting the applications up there. So I'm on a bit of a crusade of sorts as a bit of a storage guy myself to make sure that we're not leaving unstructured data behind. The pandemic over the last 2 years has brought about a whole new world of remote workers. We've seen VDI exploding. I guess 2020 was finally the year of VDI that we've been waiting for about 15 years. It's one of the things that when you look at what VDI needs, it's not just an operating system, it's not just an image. You need that user's home drive. You need their shared directories, their shared P drives, whatever it might be, to take it with you. That's huge data sets. You're going to need to move those up. You're going to need to get all of that up there as well. Migration. Out of our survey that we did, our efficiency report earlier this year, migration topped all of the concerns because they don't know how to move the data efficiently, and it's not fast enough, and the scale of the size of the data is bigger than the throughput that they can afford or that they are willing to invest in. When you're getting a VPN, it's kind of like dating, but when you're ready to commit, it's getting a direct connect. When you want to put a ring on it, get a direct connect. I think there's hesitation to jump into the deep end of a direct connect. Getting a 10 gig circuit is not cheap. It's not a small affair. It's not easy to do, right? But so people fall back on VPNs because they're safe. The problem is they're slow. They're not that fast. So when you're trying to move a petabyte of user home drives up to the cloud, it's not that fast. So migration tops the concerns. 38% as well, tied for first, skills gap. How do we take care of our staff? Do we turn the staff over? Do we train and recertify them? Most CIOs will go, I don't know what to do. I don't want to fire all my people, but they like their VMware, they want to stick with it. So a lot of people will fall back on things like VMC, right? To me, that's a short-term solution that needs a longer-term fix. We'll see how the whole VMC thing eventually shakes out over time. I'm anxious to see what happens to those applications running on VMware that end up in Amazon or in AWS. And I think over time they eventually just switch over. Because I think people stick with what their safety is. Seamless migration of applications, being able to do that regardless of what the data source is. We have a tool called Cloud Sync that will cost you next to nothing, pennies on the dollar. All we care about is the protocol. I don't care if it's on an Isilon or a Nimble or a Nutanix or whatever it is. NetApp Cloud Sync, it will be one of the best tools in your toolbox, I promise you. And you will not really pay for it that much compared to what you would for some other tools that are out there. The beauty of Cloud Sync that makes it different from other stuff that's out there is we deploy what we call a data broker. There's a little middleman that handles in-flight encryption end-to-end. It also allows you to scale out that data move. So once you initiate a sync between a source and a destination, and it can be different protocols, it can be NFS to object, right? Once you initiate that, you can go in and click a plus sign that says add a broker, add a broker, add a broker. You can scale that up to as many as you like, and we will basically parallelize that data move to the point where we could move a petabyte of data in a day. I've done it. It's pretty nuts, but it works. Not to mention the fact that it also handles in-flight encryption. You can also schedule it to be a recurring, ongoing synchronization relationship between the two. You can even use the APIs to program it to automatically scale up and scale down based on certain thresholds, the number of data brokers that are deployed. Very, very powerful tool. Cloud.netapp.com if you want to check it out, and any of our other tools, definitely check out Cloud Data Sync, or Cloud Sync, excuse me. All right, so let's keep moving, because I got some fun stuff to show you guys. Before we get into the fun part, I want to talk about where we've been for the last few years before I show you where we're going, all right? Cloud Volumes ONTAP, or what we refer to as CVO, is literally ONTAP in a virtual machine. It's our storage operating system that runs in a predefined virtual machine. It allows us to, whether we run it as M5X large, I believe is the desired size under the covers. It's normally the instance size that we choose, especially for performance workloads. We can go bigger instances or we can go smaller depending on what your demands are, and that's kind of the beauty of CVO. You can design it. You can dictate what you want it to be, what kind of workloads you want it to support. If you want it to just be a single node instance that sits there as a mirror target and does absolutely nothing else, you can do that. You can use the lowest instances possible. If you want it to run an Oracle RAC instance across availability zones, it can do that as well in an HA configuration with some of the highest SSD tiers. So we can take advantage of all kinds of stuff. The beauty of this is if you're an existing ONTAP customer, you can use the native ONTAP features to sync and replicate and mirror your data up from your data centers on-prem or other colo facilities and things like that directly up to the cloud. And we find that CVO has been really popular with our existing installed base, and I've even seen where once they discover that they have this ability to have a storage array in the sky, effectively, that has led to other hardware sales to replace non-NetApp storage, I'll say, so that they have the functionality to be able to move it back and forth in that very agile manner. Right? This comes along with a full management suite, that column on the right that I'm not going to regurgitate for all of you, but there is literally a storage array in a VM in the sky for you. You can mount NFS, SMB, iSCSI, all of the latest protocols. You can get as much performance or as little as you need. It's really a performance and cost slider. Which way do you want to swing? Do you want it to be cheap, fast, or efficient? You can choose two, right? It's for that old thing. And then there's the new stuff. Everybody heard about FSx ONTAP at this point? Yeah? That was fun. That was a top secret project for a couple of years. We didn't tell anybody about. It was a good time. I personally didn't get involved with it until about July of this year, June or July of this year. And we started coming up with a plan of how are we going to launch it, it was just an API at the time. It was just a command line at the time. And we had to wrap the GUI around and all that fun stuff. A little inside baseball for you guys. But what is AWS FSx for ONTAP? Everything that I just talked about with CVO, except none of the instances under the covers. What if we took CVO and made it managed? That's FSx. Oh, by the way, it's also natively deployed by AWS. It's managed by AWS. It's supported and built by AWS. Well, what do I have to do? Nothing. You go to the FSx console, in the AWS console, choose NetApp, deploy instance, 20 minutes, you've got a storage array, managed storage array. You can configure it for performance or capacity. We've got some great RDS custom and Oracle testing coming on that very soon. Right now we're just getting double checks on all of that stuff, but we're pushing the boundaries of it to see what we can get out of it. Very excited to hear about Graviton 3 stuff that's coming. We'll see if that makes a difference and we can take advantage of some of that with newer builds in the future. We've got all kinds of new features and stuff that are coming at the turn of the year in addition to this, but for the initial version of it, it's absolutely amazing. AWS FSx or Amazon FSx for ONTAP is really cool. It's fully featured. All of the flex and snap words of ONTAP, you get them. You don't have to lose out on anything. Our previous things that we used to work with around cloud volumes and things like that were lacking some of those, and the vision wasn't really complete. We thought we had it right, but we didn't. This is the way to do it. Because I was talking at the very beginning of the session here, managed services are the way customers are going. That's what they want. They want to pay a bill and just know that it's taken care of, know that it'll be there when they need it, know that it's protected. So when you think about the easiest example of this is Office 365. It's absolutely the best example. I can't think of one customer right now that still runs an Exchange environment on-prem. They've all moved to Office 365. Some of them do because they're still in a transition because they got 100,000 users. And it's going to take them 5 years to move all 100,000 users. That takes time. And petabytes of data underneath it. But the ability of just having a managed service take care of it, and then you can add another managed service that handles the backups for you, and then you can have another managed service that does indexing for you, and the managed service paradigm is going to be the way. And that's what one of the things I love about FSx as a whole and ONTAP, our ability to deliver all the Flex and SnapWord features of ONTAP in a managed service is absolutely key here. The big thing, and I won't go over all of these, but it's the familiarity fully managed. Our install base loves this, the idea that they can get all the things they know and love about ONTAP in the cloud in a managed service. It's a no-brainer. The ability to get multiple gigabyte per second throughput, 100,000 plus IOPS, right? Sub-millisecond latencies. All that is real. All that is, hook it up to Oracle, hook it up to any tier 1 app you can. It's going to be SAP HANA certified at some point. We're really looking forward to that one. Here's the thing. Let's say you start out with a performance tier, and you want to automatically go down to a capacity one because you're just not using what you need. It'll do that for you automatically. You can dial in a threshold. Pretty cool stuff. It really is. Deduplication, compression, compaction, all of those storage efficiencies that NetApp has sold you on for a decade or more now, all exist now. So the things that might not have been as efficient as they could have been in EBS or EFS, now you get those as part of FSx. Okay? Security compliance ONTAP has been beaten to death by every single thing you could possibly throw at it. It is hardened. We've been hardening ONTAP for 25 years, at least. So it is super secure. The way that we design our SVM and logical interface architectures to be able to IP it, the way that we wall that through ONTAP and the heart of the operating system, some of the best encryption and security you could get, right? Use case wise, wide spectrum. You've got all kinds of stuff you can do with this thing. From file shares, mapped network drives, apps and databases, software development. If you want to store your source code, have a big repository there that you can then snapshot and replicate and then do test and dev off of that. Have your QA teams work off of that as well. Instantaneous snapshots directly off of production data. It's one of the founding cornerstones of ONTAP. Are those snapshots. The ability to do that as quick as we could. Data protection also takes advantage of snapshots. The thing I'm most interested about is a lot of these media and entertainment, EDA, HPC type of applications and workloads that are making their way to the cloud. I'm anxious to see, because we've been working with those kinds of customers for a really long time, and they are some of the most demanding when it comes to performance, scalability, and throughput. I'm anxious to see how they end up operating in the cloud, because there's going to be demands that we need to meet in order to be able to do that stuff. And I think FSx ONTAP is going to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, it's ONTAP. And of course, hybrid cloud, if you need to lift and shift and move applications, of course you're going to need to move the data at the same time to be able to support those. Well, SnapMirror makes that really easy. The ability to take all of that data, take it from one place, put it in another with a next finish wizard, or an easy API call, or a PowerShell script, whatever you'd like to do. At the end of the day, we end up with a beautiful portfolio of data services. So this is what we've been building. This is what we do at NetApp and what we've been building for the last 5 years. And it builds on the history of NetApp to be able to bring some of this to the table and make it a part of FSx. So when you're integrating FSx into your workloads, you're also bringing some of this stuff along, or at least the ability to take advantage of some of this stuff. And I'm going to show you guys a demo of how a lot of it works in a second. It's not just about that, though. Day one, back in September, day one when we announced FSx for ONTAP, when AWS announced FSx for ONTAP, day one integrations, right here. And there's more coming, first quarter next year. I want you to imagine for a second if you could build everybody familiar with CloudFormation? Yeah? Imagine if you could build a CloudFormation template for your application that also included spinning up an instance of FSx and also deploying 2 or 3 volumes that instantly mapped up to the application and the workload. right? And then at the same time, it built your backup jobs, sent those over to S3 IFA buckets, right? All in a template. Automation and auto provisioning and things like that, especially for instances at scale, are going to be a huge deal. I was just talking about things like EDA, automotive, chip design, things like that. They have to replicate processes over and over and over millions of times. And things like CloudFormation, other automation workflow platforms and things like that are going to be huge. Monitoring, CloudTrail, CloudWatch, you've got AWS Backup. What else is on here? VMC. VMware today, breaking news, if you haven't heard it yet, about 2 hours ago, announced that VMware Cloud, VMC, now supports running data stores on FSx ONTAP. Big deal for us, right? Big deal for AWS, big deal for VMware. It's nice that they can play ball again and that they broke out. SageMaker is a big one. SageMaker is one where actually my team in the Office of the CTO is testing a lot of right now. We think FSx is going to play into SageMaker in a very big way. SageMaker's ability to unite all of those data pipelines for ML modeling workflows without ever having to type any code, without ever having to know how to do ML work. You simply, it's almost a drag and drop kind of, I want this thing here, this thing here. If you've not played with SageMaker, it's really, really cool to be able to do modeling type of workflows. FSx had day one support for SageMaker. You can send all of your data up to FSx via native ONTAP, SnapMirror, and SnapVault features, and then just tie it straight into SageMaker. Like I said, more of this is coming very, very soon. What I want to show you guys really quickly, it's about an 8-minute demo, just to give you a heads up. I forgot my sage. I apologize. I didn't bring my sage to burn for the demo gods. So I have a recorded demo. So I'm going to talk you through it. At the end of the day, what I really want to show you is how we provision an instance of CVO. Let's see if this will work right.
Hi there. What I'm going to show to you.
See if it starts playing. Come on. We want that mouse to start moving. So this is what we call Cloud Manager. Cloud Manager is our platform. It's our canvas, if you will. Canvas, it will be full of icons like S3. We call them working environments. You can connect Cloud Manager with an identity that's tied to a region inside of AWS. And you can have multiple, it's like IAM roles. You can have multiple identities, multiple connectors that can be tied to different either subscriptions or anything like that. So let's go and provision an instance of CVO, the thing that we've been working on for many years now. We're going to go in, we can choose an individual node, a single node. We can do an HA pair, or we'll come back and I'll show you FSx, and I'll show you the difference between the two. All right? FSx provisions the exact same way. I mean, you might be a little confused, but I'll explain. You can provision FSx both from the AWS console and from the NetApp Cloud Manager. All right? So we'll give the working environment a name, this instance of CVO. We'll give it a base cluster user and password, get that in there. We do have the option to tag. Big fan of tags. I love tagging. We also have the ability to turn on some native integrations on our side for data management, such as Cloud Data Sense, Backup to Cloud, and our Cloud Insights monitoring tool that builds in some native integrations there for you to take advantage of. You can see we're choosing a region we want to deploy to, a VPC we want to deploy to, subnet, all of that stuff. We're going to use the native AWS encryption right here. We have the option to do a pay-go, bring your own license, but also don't sleep on the fact that you can get up to 500 gigs free. You can deploy one of these today for free, and you can play with it. We do have some pre-configured packages here that you can choose from depending on what workload you want to test, but over in the top right, you can see change configuration, that big button up there. You can totally customize this however you want. We're going to choose the M5 large because I want to throw some database workloads at it, or 2x large, excuse me. We're going to choose that one because we want some performance. And then we're going to come in and we're going to create your first volume for you. You can't do anything with a storage array until you have a volume that you can mount stuff to, or mount to. So we'll give this volume a name, give it a demo name. Fun demo name. AWS test, right? I just wanted to show you here that this is fully extensible as well. We show you the API requests, so this can be fully automated and built in. So the creation of volumes, snapshots, clones, and recovers can all be driven through APIs. This is a browser interface, full SaaS. So you can see that our CVO instance, single node, you can see the fun little AWS logo there that kind of identifies that it's in AWS. And when you click on it, once it's initialized, It takes about 10 minutes for that one to spin up. It's creating the instances and the storage pieces under the covers for you to take advantage of. But let's come back in here and let's do the same thing with FSX. So we can choose to use our existing credentials, or we can automate creating a new one right here, or we can at least give you the workflow. We'll do something similar. We'll give it a name, and we'll give it a cluster name and password. So here's the fun part. Node 1 and Node 2. Right now, you can only do a highly available multi-AZ deployment. So you get to choose which AZs, which regions, which VPC, which security group, and which availability zones you want to put that into, as well as the accompanying subnets, right? If you don't have one in there, we can create one for you, right? So there's our route table. Found the one that was existing in that VPC. We can turn on encryption, or you can manage your own keys if you like. We're going to create some storage under the covers. We're going to choose the throughput setting that we want. We're going to give it 10 TB. You do have the option to set a QoS policy too here if you want to. You can set the max IOPS, so you can put a ceiling on it so that you don't get a one machine taking all of the, oh, I just realized I put FSZ test. That's a typo. That's fun. So anyway, you can see the canvas begin to build out here. And one of the beauties of this is that we can drag and drop these cloud icons to create snap mirror relationships. So you drag and drop one, next, finish, tell it what volume you want it to be in, and all of that stuff. This is how easy it is. You can add on-prem hardware to this canvas. You can add other cloud providers, other regions, other devices, whatever you want to, can all be part of this canvas. And each of them can come in and begin to look at all of these additional data services that you can then apply to all of the volumes that are part of those things that are on the canvas. And this is where it gets fun. So let's go back into our FSX instance, and we're going to add another volume. We'll call it AWS test. We'll give it, what did I do here? 100 gigs, default snapshots. We'll just use general purpose SSDs. We'll leave some of the tiering stuff off so we don't have to deal with that. All of this stuff is built in, by the way, just natively. So once the volume's allocated, nearly instantly, you can click on the little hamburger menu and you get some options for the volume specifically. You can clone it, you can restore it, you can mount it, you get your mount commands, copy and paste mount commands to be able to mount that volume to an instance, right? Via NFS, SMB, iSCSI, all of it works, right? Automatically doing ransomware protection for you. That is now natively built into ONTAP. I want to pause right there 1 second, see if I can do that. Oh no, I might have reset the whole thing. I might have messed up. Ransomware protection built in natively to ONTAP. You don't have to buy third-party software anymore. We solved the problem. We are looking at the block level and at the file level inside of the ONTAP operating system. We're looking for file extensions as they're ingested onto the system. We're looking at variances in access to data at the block level. And if we notice anything that's wrong, we take a snapshot, just in case. So I did reset it. Let me see if I can fast forward this thing, because I want you guys to see the end, because that's one of the coolest parts. All I've talked about so far is provisioning storage, right? Is there a way I can fast forward? I guess not. It's not a big deal. I'll let it play until it catches up, and I'll keep talking. So we got time. Cloud Manager is our attempt, at least from the perspective of data and data management, of creating a universal control plane. It's one of the next big frontiers, in my opinion. I think whoever figures out how to make that all-inclusive, dare I say, single pane of glass. I'm sorry. The universal control plane will be, I think, the thing to unite all of the clouds, all of your sources, all of your workloads into one management plane. Now, we've used APIs quite a bit to automate a lot of that stuff in the management, provisioning, and teardown of a lot of that. But I think there's one more step further that we can go to in achieving that. I think there's more that we can do. And Cloud Manager is our attempt at that. It gives us the ability to have a full canvas of all of our storage footprint. And then on top of that, we can apply data services to each of those, or all of them, holistically. So the tool that I wanted you guys to see, and I hate that I can't fast forward this, I apologize, is called Cloud Data Sense. 2 years ago in 2019, we made an acquisition of a company called Cognigo. Cool little Israeli company that were doing something that nobody else was really working on at the time. We had just come off the back of the EU ratifying GDPR, right? And later that year, California followed it up with CCPA. And the short version of what that is that you have to keep a record of all of the personal information that you're keeping on board, and it has the users have the rights to know what you know about them and the ability to send in deletion requests. How are you supposed to know what you know about every user? Everybody's indexing all of that, right? It's searchable, right? You know everybody, all the information you have of everybody's, no. Cognigo came around and they started a way to, at the protocol level, right? It's protocol agnostic, so it works, it doesn't care what storage, what the source of the data is, as long as it can talk NFS or SMB to it, or object. It will scan all of the data inside of all of the places that you point it to and tell you, I can't wait for it to get there, it'll show you graphs, it'll show you tabled views of anything that might be exposed. It'll give you roll-up packages. You can search for individual usernames or credit card numbers or social security numbers to see if it's at risk and to provide deletion requests for users when they come in. Now, I want you to take that and just apply it to what I showed you here, creating CVO, volumes, FSX, volumes, and imagine just checking a box. That's what Cloud Data Sense is. And not only can we do that with our own CVO, but we can also do that for FSX now. So the minute you move your workloads into AWS, the minute you move your data into FSX, you need to be a way to be able to not only sanitize that data, but at least have awareness of what you have inside of your volumes. How much of that is at risk? How much of that do you need your users to be prepared for? That's what Cloud Data Sense brings to the table. If you look at the blue menu bar across the top, now that we're caught back up and we can see what's going on, we've got a whole array, and you can see the little drop down that says all services. You can pin whatever you want to that top menu, the things that are relevant to you. So in this one, you can see Data Sense up there. We can drop down. I'm going to pull the Data Sense menu up here in just a second and show you guys what it looks like. So let's create a volume again. All right. Give it a name. This is the easiest way to create storage. Everybody has all their ONTAP CLI commands memorized still, right? I don't. All right, so what we were doing there is it was saying no new AWS resources were needed to add an additional volume to this existing workload, right? So we approved that that was going to be there. Cloning, restoring, mounting, change the disk type and the tiering policy. You can do that on the fly at the volume level. Don't sleep on that. The ability for you to micromanage what volumes get tiered, what volumes get all of that stuff. Fantastic. Ransomware protection built into ONTAP with F-policy. Our ability to find file extensions that are known and malicious and be able to snapshot a volume immediately in case that ransomware starts encrypting files, lockering your files. So all of that's there, right? Let's go back to the canvas, and I'm going to jump up to Cloud Data Sense, and we're going to look at a footprint of all of the stuff that I've got in here. Now, admittedly, this is a lab. This is sample data. So take what's on the screen here with a grain of salt. It's done intentionally, though, to show you what is possible. So we have any number of environments from object to file, across clouds, across regions, doesn't matter. All of it can be managed here centrally in one place. We can show you at-risk data. This is massive for regulated industries. This is something that they have been begging us for a long time. The ability for us to go into any of those services down there, storage services, and we can look at non-sensitive data, sensitive and critically sensitive. That's the color scale, or excuse me, personal and sensitive personal. We show you a heat map on permissions that we've scanned, things that we can read, things that we shouldn't be able to read that we can read. We can see the age of data over a decade. We can look at that. We can even click on that nodule in the graph, and we're going to go and look at all of the items that are in the thing that are over 7 years old. What can we do with that? Dump them out to a cheaper bucket, IFA bucket or Glacier, maybe. We can tier it in a different way, things that are in that volume. So Cloud Data Sense not only does things like governance, but it also is going to handle a lot of the compliance for you as well. It's really a twofold attack here. So you get to maintain some sovereignty over the data, but you also get to give your reports to the auditing agencies to show that you're in compliance and you don't have any sensitive data there. All right? Okay. We went over a lot. I'm going to give you some additional resources here that you can look into. Almost everything I talked about today you can find at the simple URL of cloud.netapp.com. All right? We've got some you guys will get copies of the slides, I assume, for being here. But you can definitely book a meeting with a specialist. You can do anything you want in that sense. And I encourage all of you, I built and run a NetApp Discord. Anybody use Discord? Nice. So come and hang out. We got about 1,000 people in there. There's a lot of staff, there's support, there's experts. We've got a big community that's forming around it. We're hosting watch parties for events. We watched Adam's keynote on day one. We watched Suvi's, and we're watching, is Werner just still doing one tomorrow? Tomorrow? Yeah, okay. I've been shooting video. I haven't been able to keep up. So yeah, we're doing watch parties for all the keynotes. We do this for all events too. And it's a big community. It's not just about NetApp all the time. We talk about all kinds of good stuff. We have guys that come in and they bought storage arrays off eBay and they want to know how to hook it up. It's fun times. But anyway, hang out there. I do some YouTube videos as well. I'm going to be doing a lot of those over the course of the next year. So come subscribe to the channel and check that out. And I'll be off to the side here if you guys have any questions. But thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to a session on day 3. That's pro.